Amy Tarkanian, attorney, Republican strategist, and Turning Point USA contributor. She was on with Candace Owens, her podcast recently. Erin Elmore knocked that out of the park. I finally listened to it. Really enjoyed that, Erin. Enjoyed the whole thing. And former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates, who was at the PGA Championship with his adorable 10-year-old son on Sunday. My goodness, we've got a lot to talk about, but I want to get into something that's really important. Amy, Erin, both parents, both moms. Is baby brain, is that a real thing? Is that, I mean, what's going to happen is 2 hours from now, right when we're getting ready to hand it over to National Report. There we go. I think that she will remember the password, but you understand that this is like sort of a crisis in her life right now.
Well,
same question to you. That was a really thorough answer.
Yeah, I was on a 2-a-day cookie diet, giant, bigger than your head cookies. So that was my cure to baby brain. A lot of chocolate chip and those big black and white cookies to keep me mentally sound.
I like that. By the way, Erin,
sugar
I like
does the trick.
Look at the Rick. Same question to you. I'm kidding. By the way, Erin, I like the new background. We finally did it.
It's real. Well, I'm back home in Philadelphia, so I have a real background. Right?
Your hometown of Philadelphia. Yeah, the fake, you chose the weirdest city. Your old background was like Akron, Ohio or something. It was like just a random city behind you. I was like, what is that?
It was available on Amazon.
Yeah, I cannot wait until we're all in studio. All right, I want to start with a headline. This is an old headline from the New York Times. This is last spring, and this is back when you were xenophobic, if you even hinted that the coronavirus could have come from anywhere but a wet market in Wuhan. The theory back then was that this had nothing to do with a lab, that it was, it came from a bat. Somebody took the bat home, ate the bat, and they got coronavirus.
I mean, are you surprised that you got one of your very famous Saki dodges from her? Yeah. I think the answer is no. If she's not getting asked a question about Joe Biden's Peloton, she's not really good at answering any questions at all. But I do think that this Wuhan lab situation is very important. If you recall, YouTube would ban you. Facebook had a policy against talking about it. Twitter, you would be kicked right off if you even talked about this. And now it's a complete and utter reversal. You know why? Because Joe Biden is now in the White House. So anything you can do to take the heat off of the United States government and put it elsewhere is valuable. Instead, they used to say, let's keep the heat on Donald Trump. Do not acknowledge that this virus could have come from anywhere in China. Let's pull the xenophobic card. And to be honest, now we're learning more and more that might be the origin. And also, the important aspect of this that we're not talking about is how the Chinese Communist Party covered this up early in the beginning. We know that they wouldn't admit to human transmission. They weren't forthcoming with information. They closed airports within the country, but not leaving communist China. So really, I think that we have to put the heat on China here and find out exactly what happened within the lab and also within the country.
Yeah, such a good point. Amy, I don't so when we've been on the air, Wake Up America, for a little over 6 months now. When we first started, we were talking about the origins, and the left-leaning media were kind of be like, oh, that's crazy Newsmax. Question, Rick, is do you think that the situation in this country, as far as the divide between police and the public, has gotten any better? Crime rates are up in every major city in the country year over year.
Well, first of all, Black Lives Matter is a Delaware corporation. They are a for-profit entity, and all they seem to be doing is enriching themselves. I think everyone that wants to donate to them should know that information. Also, what have they done? The question is, what have they done to help the Black community? Have they gotten African American children back to school? Have they set up tutoring programs? Have they diverted funds to these communities to help the business owners that have been displaced? And I think the answer to all of those questions is absolutely not. And if you look at the crime in these major cities, unfortunately, I think that the Democrats, the voters, don't tie the crime to the policies. They just think, well, crime is up because of quote unquote, air quotes, coronavirus. In Philadelphia, one of the most liberal George Soros-funded district attorneys, Larry Krasner, just got reelected by a major landslide. And why that's important is that these kind of district attorneys that are super progressive, pro-criminal, are being elected all around the country. And if you think it's not going to happen to you in the small towns and the small communities, they're coming for you next. So these policies that these district attorneys, these mayors that are super progressive are putting into place, we have to know that your vote matters. Your vote is tied to this crime rate. Please start voting more conservatively, or you will see more of this.
Well, I'll tell you what, and we made this prediction 6 months ago. Seriously, people were like, well, the origins of coronavirus, we've already figured that out. I'm telling you, come 2022, this is going to drive back, Rick, this is going to drive back those Remember that silent majority, the Nixon conservatives, the law and order conservatives? Many people that are waking up with us right now, I'm sure, the Reagan conservatives, those law and order conservatives, those are the people that are going to be driven back to the polls in droves come the midterms. And we've got a litmus test in New Mexico. Just back up top of the hour. Always good stuff with this all-star panel. Rachel's with us right now. Rachel, any progress with the password?
No, but I have a poll running on Twitter.
Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian, attorney, Republican strategist, and Turning Point USA contributor Erin Elmore, and former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates with us as well this morning. I want to play a soundbite from Jen Psaki. Antony Blinken, our Secretary of State, is in Israel right now. They are 7 hours ahead of us there. After going to Israel, he's going to travel to the West Bank, Egypt, and Jordan, where he will meet with King Abdullah there. This all according to the State Department. But here's what Jen Psaki had to say about this very important visit.
The president asked Secretary Blinken to travel to the region to meet with Israeli and Palestinian leaders, also with leaders, additional leaders in the region.
The rise in anti-Semitism and Islamophobia we're seeing across the country. I worked hard to become a Jew. I know that you converted to Judaism. What's happening right now around the country is it's difficult to watch this play out yet again. But I was reading a story about a 97-year-old Holocaust survivor. She was at Auschwitz. She was a little girl there, and she has a social media feed, and people were harassing her. 97 years young, this woman, and people were harassing her on social media, saying really, really disgusting things to her. Tough to see something like that.
Yeah, it's really tough and it's really hurtful. But I will tell you this, that if the Democrat Party doesn't shape up and start supporting Israel, the only Jewish state in the world, they're going to have a major problem because traditionally Jews vote Democrat. And also the Jews are very educated voters. They really apprise themselves of the issue and they care about Israel first and foremost. So if Biden doesn't really start shaping up here and being more vocal about its support for Israel, there will be major problems within the Democrat Party with these optics because anti-Semitism should not exist in the United States. You have to realize that in Palestine, they're ruled by Hamas, which in their charter calls for the destruction of Israel. So there is no way that you can play this properly and support both. A ceasefire is great because we don't want to see any lives lost, but there is a major problem of optics here. If Hamas puts down their weapons, there is peace. If Israel puts down their guns, they will cease to exist because they have to defend themselves. So this is a major issue, and Biden really better start cracking down on Hamas quickly, or else he will have a very big problem within the Democrat Party.
All right, I just want to check with my producers. How much time do we have for this segment here? Because I do have a quick question. Okay, great. I'm told we have some more time, Amy. By the way, Erin, you make a great point about Hamas's charter. By the way, if you don't understand what Hamas is, anytime you want to use Hamas, just take out that word and say Taliban. Up on the other side, we have a lot more to get into this morning. Looking forward to that. Rachel is with us right now. She's got to look at what to watch for today. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, for the rest of the show.
Oh, what a classic. Absolutely. All right, let's welcome back the Powerhouse panel. A lot to get into this morning. Former Nevada State GOP chairwoman and Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian is with us. Turning Point USA contributor Erin Elmore is here. Former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates here as well. A couple things I just want to blast through while we've got everyone. According to The Hill, Mitt Romney, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, Erin, but Mitt Romney of Utah, former governor of Massachusetts, says that he will be the first Republican senator to vote for a January 6th commission investigating what happened at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. Is that any surprise to anyone? Erin, I'll let you go first.
Definitely not. I mean, Republican in name only. And I think the sadness about all of this is he used to be seen as very reasonable and very thoughtful and thought-provoking. And I think that he's completely unraveling because he can't stand the fact that Donald Trump made it to the White House and he did not. So he's now undergoing this major ego transformation, and he's trying to do anything he can to stand out from the crowd. And all he's doing is getting booed by a crowd and being vilified by the crowd. And yes, I understand what happened on January 6th was nothing to brag about. It wasn't great, but really, we are trying to get blood from a stone here. Plenty of things need to be investigated, like the riots that happened all over our country last summer.
Yeah, Mitt Romney was a guy too. Rick, he reminds me of, I know he's a senator, but you remember when the Republicans in the House were in the minority for like 40 years? and it took Newt Gingrich and sort of a George Bush that time period. Bill Clinton got elected, and finally, I think it was like 43 years, they finally were able to retake the majority in the House of Representatives in the mid 90s. But Republicans had that I wanted to play for you. This is Jen Psaki was asked yesterday in the briefing room about, so there is apparently now good evidence that 3 of the first people infected, maybe on the planet with coronavirus, were 3 lab workers at that Institute of Virology in Wuhan. And Jen Psaki was asked about this in the briefing room, and her answer just absolutely blew me away. Take a listen.
In terms of the report, which was specifically about individuals being hospitalized, we have no means of confirming that or denying that. I mean,
you and I just on the air, and you were like, wait, so did it come from a lab? I'd be like, well, I have no way of verifying that Wall Street Journal report that claimed that 3 people got sick a month before anybody in the world knew about coronavirus in Wuhan. I'm just a private citizen. I can't get. She's representing the president, the U.S. government. There is nobody more qualified than the person that's sitting 20 feet behind her in the Oval Office to actually get that answer for us.
Right. I mean, there's a very simple answer. She could have said, this is the information we have, X, Y, and Z. These 3 people did go to the hospital. Why can't she just acknowledge the truth here? And to be honest, if she was a good press secretary and thought this through past just her answer, she would realize that this does take the heat off of Joe Biden and the American White House. So really, it would behoove her to answer this question more diligently and more appropriately, more thoroughly. But we already know time and time again, she just comes across as disinterested, annoyed by the questions when they're anything difficult, and never really provides a thorough or thoughtful answer.
Yeah, and she's
honestly,
protecting China, Erin. Why protect China at this point? Look, can we just get an answer to where it came from? All right, Rick, I got something special. Well, you have something special for us, but this is pretty darn cool. We've got a video of 2 people that I know at the PGA Championship on Sunday. Take a look. Tell us, you weren't planning on doing this. You weren't there all 4 days because you were on the air with us last week.
Woke up early Sunday and headed straight to the tournament, spent about 12 hours there. And it was just, I mean, absolutely spectacular.
Anything you can do to spend time with your son, that's priceless, and happy birthday to him. It looked like an amazing day.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely wonderful. The fact that you were able to spend one-on-one quality time is key.
Well, let me just tell you, we'll see you guys again top of the hour. Looking forward to it. When we come back, we've got former Nevada State GOP chairwoman and Republican strategist Amy Tarkanian, attorney, Republican strategist, and contributor for Turning Point USA. Erin Elmore is here, and former Trump campaign aide Rick Gates. Good to have all of you back on the show. It's pretty unbelievable if you think about it. So 1 year ago, that tragedy in Minneapolis, Minnesota, a Chauvin is going to be sentenced next month. He might get another trial. Who knows? We'll watch that play out. But Rick, we'll start with you. I think over the last year, this defund the police debacle, I think the American people, I know my friends and family, they're ready to get back to law and order. They're ready for police to be celebrated again. They're ready for this October 31st kids to go trick-or-treating dressed up as police officers again.
Toward training, making sure, the police are fully operational in terms of being able to combat a lot of the crime that's going on. But when you take Minneapolis alone, where, George Floyd was killed. I mean,
quick question for you. You ever heard the name Dijon Gaynor?
I don't know. Is it Philadelphia based?
No. And you know what? You don't know, and I guarantee you that nobody watching right now knows this name. So this young man, 15-year-old boy, he was on his front porch in Chicago, and he was hit by a stray bullet over the weekend. Killed. He's no longer with us. Nobody's heard his name, and Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, is concerned with taking questions from black and brown reporters. Instead of declaring a war on crime, she's declared a war on white reporters. And you know what other group doesn't care is BLM. They only care if the shooter is a cop.
This is really sad. And what Lori Lightfoot is doing and what other Democrat politicians is doing is just playing a shell game, and it's a total game of distraction. The real problem is that we have defunded the police. We have pro-crime district attorneys. We have complicit mayors. And this has to stop, because in all of our major cities, what the voters need to realize is all of these majors and all of these, politicians that you elect, and all of these crimes are politically related. Okay, so they are not equating these two problems. We have to change the mindset of the voter and make them realize if you don't elect people that are for law and order, you are going to have more of the same. And as I indicated earlier, Philadelphia just reelected their pro-crime district attorney. So I am not as optimistic as my co-panelist here that we are going to see major change, because I don't think that the average Democrat American voter ties these problems together. And this is a massive problem. If we don't have a real wake-up call or a real aha moment soon, our major cities are all going to be destroyed. And yes, it's Democrat politicians that are doing it.
Yeah, I want to talk about what's going on in Israel. But the final point, and Rick, we were talking about this before. I know you were in the Trump White House, and I know that former President Donald Trump was talking about this in January when, his last days in office. But it's these defund the police progressive policies that are actually going to end up, or could end up, doing Republicans a favor in 2022. Anti-Semitism and Islamophobia that we're seeing across the country. Now, you might continue reading that and say, okay, the way to my heart. I just checked my email a moment ago. She sent me an article called What to Make of the COVID-19 Lab Leak Theory. So I look forward to diving into that after the show, a topic that always gets my attention. Panel, we'll see you all again real soon.
Good to see you.
All right, when we come back this morning.